Today, we are going to be talking about It's Perfectly Normal by Robbie H. Harris and Michael Emberley. It's a really important book that has helped tons of young people figure out all the confusing stuff about changing bodies, growing up, and sexual health. For decades, its whole point has been to give you the real, honest information you need to make good choices and stay healthy. So, let's jump in.
Right away, we meet these two characters, the bird and the bee. And the bird's reaction? Oh my goodness. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Talking about this stuff can feel, well, a little weird. The book uses these characters to walk us through everything, basically showing us that it's okay to feel a little awkward, but it's even more important to get the real facts. So to make sense of this huge topic, we're going to break it down into 5 parts, just like the book does. First, we'll figure out what the word sex even means. Then we'll get into all the changes our bodies go through. After that, we'll talk about feelings and identity, which is a huge part of it. Then we'll look at how you can use all this info to make healthy choices, and we'll wrap it all up with the book's main message. Okay, section 1. Let's talk about sex. You know, one of the reasons this whole subject can be so confusing is that we use this one little word, sex, to mean a few totally different things. So let's clear that up and break down each meaning, one by one. The first and maybe most basic meaning is just about biology. Think about it. When a baby is born, what's one of the first things people announce? It's a girl or it's a boy. That's it. That's the first definition. It's about being classified as biologically male or female. Super simple. But then there's the second meaning, which is a feeling. You know, you might desire a slice of pizza or really want to be friends with someone, but sexual desire is different. The book describes it as this really strong feeling of attraction, kind of like a magnet pulling you towards another person, making you want to be really, really physically close to them. It's a feeling in your body that can feel exciting or warm or even tingly. And that feeling brings us to the third meaning, the act itself. This is what you'd find in the dictionary, sexual intercourse. It's how people who feel that really strong attraction express it by getting physically close in a sexual way. And the book is really clear that this can happen between a male and a female, 2 females, or 2 males. The key thing is that it's an act of physical intimacy that comes from that feeling of sexual desire. All right, let's move on to section 2, our changing bodies. So that time in your life when your body starts changing from a kid's body into an adult's body, that's called puberty. You'll also hear the word adolescence. That's a little broader. It doesn't just cover the physical stuff, but also all the new thoughts, feelings, and responsibilities that come along for the ride. So here are a couple of illustrations from the book that show the basic anatomy of male and female bodies. Now, there are definitely some biological differences we'll talk about, but it's so important to remember that these are just simplified diagrams. Real human bodies are way more diverse than this. You know what's really interesting? How much of this whole puberty thing is a shared experience. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, a lot of the same stuff happens to everyone. You start to notice a new kind of sweat and, yeah, body odor. Your hair and skin might get oilier. You start growing hair in new places, like under your arms and in your pubic area. You'll probably hit a massive growth spurt. And remember what we just talked about? You'll start having all kinds of new thoughts and feelings. Everybody goes through this stuff. And this right here is maybe one of the most important messages in the entire book. Yeah, we can talk about male and female bodies, but the truth is, no 2 people are exactly the same. Human bodies are incredibly different. They come in all sorts of sizes, shapes, and colors, and every single one of those differences is completely, totally, 100% normal. So that brings us to section 3. We've been talking a lot about the physical stuff, but growing up is so much more than just what's happening to your body. This part, feelings and identity, is all about the emotional side of things. As your body changes, your feelings do too. You might suddenly find yourself having huge crushes on people in your class, celebrities, pretty much anyone, and that is perfectly normal. These new feelings, and even that feeling some people call feeling sexy, aren't just random. They're a direct result of all the changes happening inside you. It's a totally natural part of growing up. Now, when you start talking about attraction, the topic of sexual orientation naturally comes up. The book handles this by presenting the mainstream scientific understanding very directly with this quote. The big idea here is that who you're attracted to, whether it's people of the same sex, the opposite sex, or both, isn't a choice. It's not like picking your favorite food. It's seen as a part of who you are, just like your eye color. And this is such an important thing to hear. While you're figuring out all these new feelings, it is totally natural to be curious. You might be curious about what other people's bodies look like, including people of the same sex. You might even have a crush on someone of the same sex. The book makes it super clear that this kind of curiosity is just a normal part of growing up and exploring. It doesn't automatically mean you're gay or straight or bisexual. It's just you figuring things out. Okay, so now we get to a really practical and honestly crucial part of all this. Section 4, making healthy choices. All of this information we're talking about isn't just trivia. The whole point is to give you the power to take care of yourself and make choices that are safe and healthy for you. I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? As you start getting more freedom and navigating all these new feelings and experiences, what are the actual concrete things you can do to make responsible choices? Well, the book lays out a really clear 4-step game plan. First, know the facts. That's what we're doing right now. Second, protect your health. This means learning about how to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs. Third, respect. This one is huge. Respect for yourself and respect for other people. That includes understanding consent, which means everyone involved has to clearly and freely say yes to what's happening. And finally, number 4, talk to someone you trust. This could be a parent, a doctor, a school counselor. You do not have to figure all this out by yourself. And here is a perfect example of why knowing the facts is so important. Using HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. There is so much wrong information out there. So let's just be crystal clear. You absolutely cannot get HIV from everyday stuff like hugging, shaking hands, sharing a toilet, or being sneezed on. It doesn't work that way. The ways you can get it are very specific, mostly from unprotected sexual contact or from sharing needles. Knowing the real facts helps you make safe choices and, just as importantly, helps you treat other people with compassion, not fear. And that brings us to our last section, the big takeaway. After talking about definitions, body changes, feelings, and making good choices, what's the one central message we should walk away with? When you boil it all down, the message is really this. Learning about your body and about sex is part of a much bigger lesson in life. It's about learning to take responsibility for what you do and to make healthy choices for yourself. It's right up there with learning about good nutrition and why exercise is important. It's all part of becoming a healthy, responsible person who respects themselves. And look, here we are, back with the bird and the bee, right at the end of their journey. Remember how awkward the bird was at the beginning? And now they're just hanging out, comfortable, like good friends. Their journey is the one the book hopes we all take, from being confused or embarrassed to feeling knowledgeable and confident. And that final line says it all. Most kids think about bodies and sex, and that's perfectly normal. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. After going through all of this, what's one thing about growing up that feels a little less confusing to you now? Just thinking about that is a great first step towards really owning this knowledge and staying healthy. Thanks for joining us.